Hi, my name is Ian, my wife Agostina and I moved to Malaga in May of 2025. It's been just over a year now. When we moved, I was pretty optimistic. Good weather, good food, nice people, a lower cost of living than in the US, a chance to live in another culture and learn the language. And honestly, a lot of that turned out to be true. So in this video, I want to share what living here has taught me, the good parts, the difficult parts, and the things that I wish we understood before we moved here. We've explored Malaga, but we've also done the Camino Frances in the north. We've road tripped through cities and towns from Madrid down to the south up to Barcelona. We've seen quite a bit of the country so far. And the more I've seen of Spain, the more I realize how impossible it is to reduce it down to just one thing. This is all coming from my own experience. I'm not claiming to be an expert on Spain. I'm just a guy with a camera who's lived here for a year, so take that for what it's worth. The first thing I learned is that the good life here can be a reality. The weather really is incredible. The city makes it easy to enjoy daily life. The food really is awesome, but it can also catch up to you. We're talking patatas bravas, croquetas, bocadillos de jamón y queso, carrilladas, rabo de toro, pimientos de padrón, espeto, €250 for a pint, $180 for a caña, cold vermouth, the list goes on. If you come here for a week, you can enjoy all of it without doing too much damage. But when you actually live here, and all of that is always around you, it can become a problem pretty quickly. Recently, after entertaining family for 3 weeks out of the last month and a half, I can confirm that the beach body is officially gone. That was one of the big lessons for me last summer when we moved here. It's easy to get carried away. Even after a year, I still want to put everything in my mouth without even knowing what it is. And that's awesome, but it still comes with a price. From what I can tell, Malagueños seem to be pretty good at moderation. Number 2 on the list, Spain is deeper than it looks. You never underestimate the depth of a culture that you do not yet understand. I think I understood this a little bit better the year before when I was living in Italy, because I was studying the language and also taking extra classes in literature, history, food, fashion, and art. So I had a more formal way into understanding the culture. Here in Spain, I haven't had that. Most of what I've learned has come from traveling, paying attention, listening to people, and being consistently reminded of how much I still don't know. One thing that I've noticed here is that people seem to be strongly identified with their region, not just with Spain as a national identity. There's a lot of pride in the city and the province, like Malaga, then the region, like Andalusia, here in the south, and then Spain. That feels different from where I come from in the United States, where I think people may be a little bit more likely to say that they're American or estadounidense for our Spanish speakers. Spain has 17 autonomous communities and 2 autonomous cities, different accents, different histories, and in some places entirely different languages, as is the case in Galicia and the Basque Country and Catalonia. That complexity reminds me a lot of Italy. These countries may look small compared to the US, but there's a lot of history packed into them. And once you start traveling through them, you realize pretty quickly that you're not just dealing with one culture. There are proud differences, histories of specific groups of people. For example, the Roma community, and flamenco's historical heartland is Andalusia. Even though now you can find flamenco shows all over Spain, especially for tourists, you're dealing with something older, more regional, and more layered than a lot of outsiders first assume. The longer you stay, the less you feel like you understand it completely. It's kind of like that old saying, the more I learn, the less I know. Number 3, housing is one of the biggest things that you need to think about before you come here. And you need to prepare for it both financially and logistically. When we first arrived, we stayed for a month in an Airbnb in Torremolinos, which is still part of Malaga province, about a half hour away from the historic center by train. That gave us the chance to be here in person to look at apartments. If you're thinking of moving to Malaga or another popular vacation destination in Spain, I recently made a video breaking down our monthly budget. I include a section on finding apartments. The rental market can be very competitive and you can be charged much more from May through September. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Don't come here expecting to find a job right away. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that you shouldn't build your entire plan around the idea that you'll figure it out once you get here. This is one of the clearest reality checks of the year, I think. Agostina found it very difficult to find work, and she is a native Spanish speaker with a college degree. She applied at all different types of places, bookstores, art stores, museums, English teaching positions, and it was still hard. Andalusia's unemployment rate at the beginning of 2026 was around 14.66%. So if you're really thinking about moving here, I would be very cautious, especially if you're moving here with a romantic image of the lifestyle and not a realistic plan on how you're actually going to support that lifestyle. I had remote income as a video editor before we came here, and that is slowly becoming replaced by this YouTube channel as it continues to grow. We also had savings to get us through the residency process. Part of the financial reasoning of moving here was that Málaga has a lower cost of living than many places in the US, and Agostina, as a citizen of an EU country and a native Spanish speaker, was able to get her master's degree here for a fraction of what we would have paid in the US. Her program here cost her 800 euros, so even though we've had to use some of our savings, we believed it was a good investment. The fourth thing on our list today is that, well, the bigger picture things can be difficult, like finding work, paperwork, housing. Daily life itself gets pretty normal, pretty quick. Getting groceries, going to the pharmacy, ordering food, handling basic errands. All of that becomes very manageable, and you can handle that at a pretty basic A2 level in the language. Bigger places like the Atarazanas market can be intimidating at first. I know I'm still a little intimidated, but once you get the hang of the basics in Spanish and understand the metric quantities for things, it gets easier and can actually be a pretty cool experience. Quick note, if you do go to the central market, buy something. It's not just a tourist attraction. It's a real market and people are there trying to do their shopping. It can be difficult for the older people to get through all of the tourists who aren't there to purchase anything. Traditional Spanish bars can feel intimidating too, especially when you're shoulder to shoulder with everybody, but that's just a part of life here, and you get used to it after doing it a few times. Even with imperfect Spanish, you can get by if you're willing to try. Fifth thing, learning the language and developing a sense of belonging do not happen automatically. It's something that I'm still wrestling with. It's very unlikely that you will absorb the language automatically through immersion, unless the conditions are actually forcing you to do it. In my case, I came here with enough Spanish to function in daily life. I can shop, order food, talk on the phone to set up utilities, and handle most of the necessary things. It's not pretty, but I get by pretty well. I'm also a B2 level in Italian, which helps because the languages are related. It is true that Málaga is such an international city that there are a lot of people that speak English, which can make it a comfortable place to come visit, but not the most motivating place when you want to dive deeper into the language. Struggling is the only path to improvement, and I think belonging kind of works in the same way. You're not automatically adopted by a friend group just because you move somewhere that's warm and social. There are opportunities here. There are a lot of outdoor activities that you can join. There are a lot of international communities, but I'm also very introverted. I'm used to being kind of a silent observer when I travel, but it does mean that finding that sense of belonging has taken more time. And I think that's worth saying because not everyone that moves abroad is naturally outgoing, and it is going to require getting out of your comfort zone, which again, I struggle with, and it's something that I aim to do a lot more of this summer. The sixth thing is that healthcare is something that you have to think about early. Spain has a very good public healthcare system that covers most people for most things at very little cost or free. And when I say free, of course, I mean paid through taxes. But when you come here and apply for residency as a foreigner, you may not have immediate access to the healthcare system. It was a requirement for us to get 1 year of private health insurance full coverage. For both of us, that cost was around 1,200 euros through a company called Adestlas, and so far that's actually been really good for us. We've been able to make appointments with specialists whenever needed. We talked to a doctor on the phone if we needed a prescription. We were able to go to the dentist. So from my limited experience with the private healthcare system, I can recommend it. I don't yet have any direct experience with the public healthcare system, but the main thing I would say is don't leave this until last minute. It's not just a lifestyle choice, it's something that could be part of the legal process. The seventh thing I learned is that the laid-back atmosphere is real, but the bureaucracy can be a different story. To be clear, this is not just here in Spain. It's been everywhere we've had to deal with immigration or government paperwork. I made a whole video on getting the residency. If you want to check that out, I'll put the tag up there. People here do seem to be comfortable. There's less urgency in daily life. That part I do appreciate. But when you're dealing with the bureaucracy, deadlines can be very strict, and sometimes trying to navigate the process here felt like running on a treadmill, doing things and just not getting anywhere. One lawyer steered us in the wrong direction, and because of that we actually had to restart the whole process again. That set us back another 3 months. So a place can feel relaxed socially. It is kind of a beach town, but it can still be rigid and confusing in some of the official processes. The eighth thing, and something that I've really come to appreciate, is the public transportation. And it's a lot better than a lot of people, especially people coming from the United States, might expect. If you live centrally in Málaga, you really don't need a car for daily life. We walk almost everywhere in Málaga City. I live on a street here that's walking only, so you actually can't drive here, even if you wanted to. There's a transport card here that lowers the cost of public transportation, which is already pretty reasonable. The bus is only $150, and the train is $180 to $350, but with the card it's even cheaper. You can buy and recharge them at estancos or tobacco shops, and I believe you can also refill them at the kiosks at the train station. Just tap it wherever you want to get on public transportation, and you can tap it for multiple people. The train is great for day trips. The same coastal train going west goes all the way to Fuengirola. Getting to the airport is very easy and quick. I took the train recently to meet my parents when they came to visit us just a couple of weeks ago. It took me about a half hour to get from my front door to the airport. Instead of paying for an Uber, usually standard 20 or 25 euros to go to the center. Same thing with the taxi. From Maria Zambrano station, which is basically the main central station, you can get all over the place. If there isn't a train, there's usually a bus. I've found that the buses are often a little bit cheaper and a little bit slower. So we were going back and forth to Seville in the winter. I took the bus all the time. It was very convenient and pretty cheap. I think that that's always, a great quality of life improvement. To not need a car. In the US, daily life without a car is sometimes impossible, depending on where you live. Here, it can be very manageable. That obviously changes if you want to live further outside of the city or if you want to explore smaller towns more often. Number 9. Weather is a bigger part of life than I expected. Yes, it is one of the biggest advantages of living here, which is very nice coming from the Northeast in the United States, which can get a lot of snow in the winter. One thing I noticed pretty quickly is that there doesn't seem to be an off-season here. Tourists were still around through the winter months. Cruise ships were still coming in. The city never fully shuts down. Down here in Andalusia, it's much drier. When you travel around the area, you can just see olive trees for as far as the eye can see in some places. It can be extreme, like in Seville in the summer, where you can't leave the house because it's 110 degrees outside or 40 degrees Celsius. Up north in Galicia, you get more forests, more green, more rain. If you're in the mountains near Granada, they have snow. Spain doesn't have just one climate in the same way that it doesn't just have one culture. And then down here in the south, there's a couple things that remind you of where you are geographically. We went to Granada with Agostina's sister and her husband, and the winds had shifted at that time, blowing dust from the Sahara Desert over across the sea. Calima is what they call it. Saharan dust mixing with rain and leaving red mud everywhere. That was the first time in my life I'd ever experienced something like that, and it taught me to keep an eye out for that next time I hang laundry outside to dry. So, after 1 year in Malaga, I think the biggest thing that I learned is that life here is both what I expected it would be and also more complicated than I anticipated. Would I still choose Malaga after 1 year? Hell yeah. But I'd choose it with clearer expectations. I'd come with a better understanding of the financial costs. I'd come with more caution when it comes to bureaucracy. And I'd understand that the dream is not just living somewhere beautiful with nice people, nice weather, and great food. That's part of it, and a great part of it. The deeper part is learning how to build a life here, understanding the culture, integrating, making friends, and slowly becoming part of the community. And for us, Malaga has been and continues to be a good place to try to do that. If you got anything out of this video, please consider subscribing and give it a like. You can watch another video of mine here. If you've ever moved abroad yourself or you're thinking about doing it, I'd love to hear what part of this resonated with you the most. And that's it for me. All right, I will see you very soon. Peace.